Turning to Calvin for help. That he had read some, though not all, of that imposing and intellectually challenging volume, Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, had once given Al considerable pride. One of the things that had first attracted him to Calvinism was the fact that so many of its adherents seemed to be more intelligent than ordinary Christians. They especially gave that impression when they talked about election. He enjoyed the company of the elect, and there was an exhilarating sense of camaraderie in knowing that others didn't understand the truth discovered by Augustine and passed on to Calvin. Now he turned to the Institutes for comfort, hoping that Calvin would offer something to quell his rising doubts. Instead, he was horrified. The answers Calvin gave to his questions seemed to credit God with working an almost fiendish deception upon the reprobate, enlightening some with a present sense of grace, which afterwards proves evanescent. Al was shocked that God would intentionally deceive sincere seekers, and wondered why he had not noticed such statements before. Of course, there were no sincere seekers. That idea was just another satanic delusion. The deception Calvin attributed to God sounded almost diabolical, leaving Al severely shaken. There is nothing to prevent his, God's, giving some a slight knowledge of his gospel, and imbuing others thoroughly. The light which glimmers in the reprobate is afterward quenched. So the totally depraved, dead in trespasses and sins, moral corpses, are not completely dead, but able to give a slight knowledge of the gospel, a light God gives them that glimmers and then is quenched, while unable to understand enough to be saved. That was diabolical, yet it rang true to his own experience. How else could he explain that he had once been so sure of his salvation, but was now in despair? Al desperately searched the Bible, but could not find any statement about such a difference between the elect and non-elect, especially that in order to deceive them, a false light was given to those whom God had predestined to damnation. Wasn't Satan the one who deceived those who didn't believe, to blind them to the light of the gospel? He read John chapter 1, verse 9 again. It seemed to say that Jesus Christ was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He searched Pink's The Sovereignty of God, White's The Potter's Freedom, Piper's The Justification of God, and the works of other Calvinist authors, but none of them addressed this important verse. Why was it avoided? At least he found where Schreiner dealt with it in detail. Al was excited to read, "This illumination makes it possible for men and women to choose salvation." Reading on, however, enthusiasm turned to despair. Schreiner was giving John Wesley's view and went on to debunk it. The light of Christ shines upon all men, only to reveal the moral and spiritual state of each heart, not to reveal Christ to them. That certainly agreed with Calvin. It seemed that Calvin was saying that God not only predestined multitudes to eternal doom, and there was nothing that they could do about it, but he deliberately deceived some of them into imagining that they were truly saved when they went. Al could not remember anything in the Bible that would support such doctrine, and noticed that Calvin didn't give any biblical references to back up what he said. With horror, Al read what now seemed to be sadistic reasoning. Experience shows that the reprobate are sometimes affected in a way similar to the elect, that even in their own judgment there is no difference between them. Not that they truly perceive the power of spiritual grace and the sure light of faith, but the Lord, the better to convict them and leave them without excuse, instills into their minds such a sense of his goodness as can be felt without the spirit of adoption. Still, the reprobate believe God to be propitious to them, inasmuch as they accept the gift of reconciliation, though confusedly and without due discernment. Nor do I even deny that God illumines their minds to this extent, that they recognize His grace. But that conviction He distinguishes from the peculiar testimony which He gives to His elect in this respect, that the reprobate never obtain to the full result or to fruition. When He shows Himself propitious to them, it is not as if He had truly rescued them from death and taken them under His protection. He only gives them a manifestation of His present mercy. In the elect alone He implants the living root of faith, so that they persevere even to the end.